Instagram as well, on our YouTube channel, and a bit of it goes on our LinkedIn pages. But the majority of my work is I do a lot of, so it goes on YouTube. This Bangalore-based business management software solutions company is a household name, and they have been assisting MSMEs both domestically and internationally. Tally Solutions has emerged to be one of the most sought after accounting and financial management firms. And to discuss more about Tally's latest innovations and adoption of technologies like AI is here with me the head of engineering and financial services of Tally Solutions, Nabendu Das. Hello, Nabendu.
Hi, Vijayalakshmi.
How are you doing today?
Great, and thank you for doing this here.
Thank you so much. I'm glad we could meet at a time that works for the both of us. And we are here in the Tally's Bangalore head office, right? So thanks for having us here.
Yep. Thanks for coming down.
Yeah. So let's begin by talking about Tally. The company was started in 1986 precisely, am I correct?
Yes.
This was about 37 years ago. So back then in the late 80s and the early 90s, our country, India, was focused on globalization and privatization and also technologies, right? We have evolved from MS-DOS to the latest Mac and Windows. So my question to you is, how has Tally withstood these massive changes over the years, and how is it a successfully relevant company to this day?
Yeah, so very interesting question, and if you're okay, I'll deep a little bit into the history of Tally.
Sure.
So when you look back at the 90s, in fact, very few businesses had a computer.
Right.
It'll be interesting to know that many businesses those days, they bought a computer so they could use Tally. You know, the simplicity, the codeless accounting that Tally brought, it was a natural adoption for many of those businesses. And then of course the liberalization happened that made things easier, because it was now easier to actually own a computer for a business. And then a series of functional and technological innovations happened in the product. So sometime in the mid-90s, the inventory module got added to the accounting. And then you talked about DOS, some of us have actually seen the DOS. So it moved from DOS to Windows. Later, the multi-user capability was introduced in a very unique manner, which I don't think others have done in that manner. So multi-user capability is typically process-based, but Tally did it file-based, and it was just a roaring success because it is so easy to set it up and get running with it. And then a new language was introduced, a new programming language called the Tally definition language.
Okay.
In fact, today if you run Tally, all the screens that you see are all developed using that language, which has been homegrown. The power that comes is that among the millions of customers that we have, there is a set of customers who want certain customizations. And using this language, it is super easy for our partners to do these customizations. And as time went by, there are more functional features like VAT, payroll. With ERP 9, we brought in a new component called Tally Server 9.
Right.
GST happened. Eventually, we had a new set of releases called Tally Prime, which happened in 2020. And we have just finished the third release under that new family. So there is this series of functional and technical journeys that the product has gone through. But there is one key thing which is common across all these. That every time we have taken something up like this, we always closely looked at what will give us that sustainable competitive advantage. And we believe that it is the technology that we build. And when I say that it is the technology, I'll give you some example. Most people will use a technology which already exists. Take that technology which is available off the shelf and build on top of that. But at Tally, we keep digging deep in tech and frequently build our own technology. A lot of the technology that we use are homegrown. And it will be a little surprising to know that we have built our own database.
Oh.
Our own UI engine, the language, like I said,
Yes.
the code editor, which is called IDE, the Integrated Development Environment, which is used by all our partners in the market. So building these technologies ourselves in the way we want, in the way it will help the MSMEs the best, is what gives us, we believe, the 10x differentiator. It allows you to bring in that unique simplicity that most others will find it difficult to bring in.
Right.
And when we talk about simplicity, it's not just UI UX. it's about the overall, overall ease of use. So for example, take a database. Installing or configuring a database, I think will be a tall order for most SMEs because they are not tech experts. But what happens with Tally? Because Tally is an application software, it needs its own database. So you get the Tally installer, you download it from our website or the partner gives it to you. All you need to do is double click on it. That's it. It sets up the application and everything else that is required to run it, including the database.
Right.
And it works all the time, 100% of the time, right? So I would say that the key behind, being the leader in the market for these 3 decades, as you mentioned, is this, passion to build simplicity through technology innovation.
Now, moving forward, when you talk about dealing with ERP software, it comes with a set of its own challenges. For example, you have to deal with quite a few stakeholders, right? You have the government on one side, and they keep coming up with policy changes every now and then. And then you are dealing with your customers, that is the MSMEs, and of course the employees within Tally itself. So how do you keep up with the emerging trends, whether it's in business or with technology, to make sure that you are working with your stakeholders and you are delivering seamless solutions?
So, see, our customers are the MSMEs. So we are here to serve them. So that is the core to everything that we do. So one key thing here is that you have to keep building something that they will love. So in fact, everything that we build in the product, every feature that we build, it is somehow influenced but things that we have listened while listening to the customers. If you simply look at this whole business of how you stay in touch with the customers, we don't go and meet the customers only when the product is. The product doesn't meet the customer once the release is being made. So we follow a very strong voice of customer program, which is called the VOC program, where the product is reviewed at design stage. So you actually take a design and review with tens of customers to get feedback early. And many times it has happened that you come back and redo the entire thing that you have done so far. You go and meet them in early stages of development. You do extensive alpha, extensive beta. One is you get feedback on the product. You also learn what they are looking at today. So I feel that the technology and the trends come later. First is you need to learn what they are needing today.
Right.
So this is one. The second thing is that Tally is it's a channel business actually. So you have got distribution partner, thousands of them in the market, and we are in a very strong connect with them. In fact, they will be typically the first set of critics for any product that we design or develop. When it comes to government, so you mentioned government, when it comes to government, yes, we are engaged. We are engaged because we need to understand the new regulations to the dot so that we can build it in the software so that my customers can stay compliant exactly as it is stated by the government. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. So there is no room for ambiguity. So there's continuous updation throughout the process where the customers are also involved and you are also keeping track of the government policies. Absolutely. And it's being integrated. Well, moving on to the next question now. Since the inception of Tally, there have been quite a few players who have entered the financial and business management industry, so to speak. So how are you keeping up with the competition? How are you tackling it? Do you have any specific strategies that you are implementing to stay ahead of the game?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. See, first of all, I think we don't really tackle the competition. We do learn about them, we keep abreast of what they are doing, but we focus on our own game. There are a couple of key things there. One is that deepening the understanding of the MSMEs that we have and that we have built over this period. We keep building them. So this is one key thing. Yeah, it is a core part of the strategy. The second part is how do we look at the product design? So every time you are looking at building something in the product, you are taking a step back and thinking, are you building something special that will wow the customer, or are you just building some run-of-the-mill stuff? Or you would look at, is there any exception that will happen? Because you have built the happy flow, but will there be any exception that is not handled inside the product? Because if there is, the customer will go outside the product to do their stuff, and then we have not met our goals. So looking at the way of product design is the second key principle of the same. The third is, of course, as I was mentioning, of what technologies we will build and how will we build them. That gives us the huge differentiator. And the fourth part is, of course, continuous listening to your customer base. So I would say that these are the building blocks. On top of this, all our product development processes, our go-to-market processes are built. And that's what I think continues, it has worked for us, I think, over all these years.
Right. Now moving on, what are some new and exciting things Tally is working on currently, and how is that shifting the convenience of MSMEs doing their business?
Yeah, so I'll mention a few things that we are doing. Some of them we have recently built, and some of them we are continuing to build. It is in the offing.
Right.
So one is new product experience, and every time I talk about experience, I am not referring to a UI UX. I am talking about an overall experience of being able to use the product. So making the experience simpler and easier to use is what keeps on making it more and more convenient for them. So I'll give you an example. So we built a feature which gives you a new type of filter in every report that is there in Tally.
Okay.
Fundamentally, you can search any piece of data that exists in the database at the click of a button. I think it came out 3-4 months back. So you created another feature where when you are looking at a report, so you look at a report, you configure it in the way you want to see it, and then you can save it. Next time when you come back to the report, it's all set. You don't need to configure it again. So the beauty of this is, you take any single report, there are various persona in the business who uses it. It could be the accountant, and they can save it in the way they want to see it. The CFO can save it in the way they want to see it, and so do the business owner. Then we build a dashboard, and dashboards are there in every software. The unique thing about the Tally's dashboard is that the business can define its own dashboard.
Okay.
So you can set up the dashboard in a way that is the most suitable for your business. Or the ability to ingest data. So, you can of course enter your data or you can import your data. So we are building a feature which allows you to import data from an Excel in practically any format. So some of these new product experiences, I think, will increase the convenience of using the software by manyfold. So this is one key thing that we are working on. So another is about building connected services. So if you see that as a business, most of your data is inside the business management software. And so when you interact with other parties, be it the bank, be it a payment gateway, be it the tax authorities, be it the marketplace where you sell your stuff, ideally you could initiate all of that inside Tally. So what we are building now is we are building connected services to all the other entities that exist in the ecosystem. So the idea is that you can continue to operate inside Tally and you can do all your stuff. So a huge convenience. Now this allows you to do something more, which we, in fact, before saying what we have done, I'll tell you one problem that the businesses have. A large problem is that is your data, is your books reconciled with all these other parties? Because if you are not reconciled with the GST system, you could miss out on input tax credit. If you are not reconciled with the bank, you may have a wrong impression of what your financial already exists, because you are not always going and checking it in the multiple bank accounts that you have.
Right.
You could also be not reconciled to the other businesses that you operate with, so your vendors or your customers in a B2B environment. And then you will have a wrong impression of the outstandings that your business is currently having. So staying connected also allows you to stay permanently reconciled. So what we call the perpetual reconciliation. So this is the ideal state, and I think bit by bit we are building towards that. And there are a lot of nuances that you need to take care, and this is the way Tally designs its product. So for example, if you take a very simple example, that you made 4 vouchers as a payment towards a vendor.
Okay.
But when you went to the bank, you make a single transaction. because you are not going to make 4 NEFT or RTGS or IMPS transactions. So the system should allow you to very simply reconcile this one to many bank to your account book. Tally will allow you to do it seamlessly. So these are some of the things that we are building. And then there is a very interesting thing that we are building, which we feel is a real mover, is that there is this huge base of businesses which use Tally, and many of them actually do business with each other. And what we imagine is a network of businesses that use Tally, and when they exchange documents. So for example, if I and you do business, if we are 2 different businesses, and I send you a payment, the payment document can automatically become a receipt document on your side. A payment to you in my system is a receipt from me in your system. You don't need to do anything else.
Right.
You can straight away cut down, in an ideal world, 50% of the entire effort that is happening in this, and imagine where that can take us.
Well, that's interesting to know, you're working on these kind of technologies, but initially also when I spoke about how we've evolved in terms of technology, right? We are currently in an era where a lot of businesses are adopting artificial intelligence and machine learning. So how is Tally planning on implementing technologies like AI and ML in their products and services?
See, I think that in terms of artificial intelligence,
Right.
the benefits are yet to be leveraged by the SMEs. That's what I strongly feel. And there are very, many possible interesting scenarios, but I feel that there has not been enough solutions in the market. So I'll give you some examples of what possibilities exist, and we are working on some of them. So first, if you take end-to-end accounting scenario, for example, can you read or extract data that any invoices that you receive? So for example, somebody sends you an invoice by WhatsApp, and your system automatically reads that invoice and ingests it into the system.
Right.
Today that is not possible. Today you will download that invoice, then somebody will look at it and probably re-enter it in whichever business management system that they're having. If all that could happen automatically or with very little human intervention, that will be phenomenal.
Yes.
Second is, you are entering a lot of data on a regular basis. The intelligent system should be able to highlight errors as you are making, so that by the end of the day all your data is precise, and then when you file your returns, etc., there will be a lot of precision in that. Third is we talked about reconciliation.
Right.
So can you build smart reconciliation systems? Once you have used a pattern to reconcile, it learns from that. Not only it learns from your own patterns, it should also be able to learn from patterns that learn from the markets, like the way everybody else is doing. So for example, if you're taking an ICICI bank statement and reconciling, there are 5, 10, 20, 50 patterns. And if you can learn from them and build a knowledge base, then it becomes easy for everybody in this ecosystem. So accounting support for businesses is one huge use case. A second possibility that we are looking at, and we are actually actively looking at, is that can you have a type of bots that the owners can use? Because many owners actually don't use the business management system.
Correct.
It's the employees who use it. But can the owner use a bot? It could even be via WhatsApp or through a separate system, where it can interact with Tally or interact with any other business management that it may have, and where it responds to it real time with the financial data that they are looking for, and using natural language processing, maybe even using conversational AI, so you do back and forth.
Yeah.
You could look at potentially smart tax return preparer that, much of it happening automatically with rare human intervention and with no human errors, which is what you fear the most when the tax filing happens. Or even a smart tax auditor. Today auditing is expensive, and I think AI can play a big role in simplifying this whole stuff. So there are many such use cases. Some of them we are actively working on it, and there's a lot of opportunity in this space, we believe, both for MSMEs and in the accounting space.
Right. So we have spoken about what AI can do in the accounting and management industry, right? But let's focus on some disadvantages or some threats, so to speak, while implementing AI in a domain like financial and accounting management. What do you think those could be? And is Tally also like planning for these kind of stuff?
Yeah, so I feel that, when you try to build knowledge base, you will require a lot of data.
Right.
How will you deal with that data is the most important thing. Is that the privacy of the data is most important. Any data that you use must be truly consented, and now we have a bill, so that also formalizes the whole framework. But in Tally, we have always been very, very particular about data security and privacy. So in my mind, if you say threat, that's a big threat that we should all be in the entire ecosystem. It's not just about Tally, that we should be really careful about. And second thing is that I feel that we need to identify those use cases carefully, make sure that we are not relying on something. You just say that, oh, the system has told it, so I'm good. So you have to give it time, make sure that the model matures. And so that's not really a threat, that's just something that to watch out for.
Right. It's a challenge.
Yes.
Yeah. So moving on to the next question, there was a recent update that Tally is planning on increasing the number of customer support executives across the country. So in an era where people are using AI for such incidents, why did Tally decide to go ahead with wanting to have more human beings in the place of machines, so to speak? Yeah.
Yeah, the AI-based support systems are coming into the fold, and certainly, but we are yet to see an AI system that can replace the customer support that we provide.
Right.
In fact, our customers have historically relied on talking to live Tally experts. In fact, we do some very unique stuff, which I think very few other people will do. So I'll give you an example relating to customer service. So when you call us, we try to ensure that we connect you to the same person that you spoke to the last time.
Okay.
Okay. And there's a certain level of success that we have faced. Obviously, it cannot be 100%. Person may be busy in another call or may not be even there in the organization anymore. But you have got a decent amount of success with that. The point to mention that is the fundamental thing is how important this is to us. And we are yet to see an AI system which will really replace that at this point. But having said that, we are actively spending time and effort into looking at an AI chatbot which will support you with your basic queries, so that eventually you can make the experts free to respond to the more complex queries.
Right.
So that's something we are working on. I think it is some more time it will take before we can talk about the outcome. But yeah, something that we are chasing right now.
Right. Moving on, Tally deals with a lot of sensitive information, right? So you are constantly working with highly confidential business and financial data of your customers. So what is your approach to data security and privacy?
Yeah, so this is an excellent question. This is actually I would say this is one of the central principles, is that any of your data that comes to me, to my system, because Tally is an on-premise system. Your data is typically in your premise under your custody. Any of your data that comes to my custody, I will ensure that nobody in the company, including the developer, can read it.
Right.
Okay. So that is fundamental. So that way, the data security is paramount. There is no way that Tally can come in the way of ever knowing what is there in your data. So that I would say that it's a very short statement, but I think that kind of
pretty
says
much
it all.
sums up the value of the company in terms of data privacy and security, right? Yeah, which is very important, of course. Now, moving on, Tally is a traditional company, so to speak. Maybe it's because of the time it was established during, or the kind of principles and values that you hold. So, how are you finding relevance in the era of artificial intelligence, and what is Tally optimistic or scared about, so to speak?
Yeah, traditionally Tally is also a deep technology company. Okay. So, yeah, like I was saying, in AI, I think there is a lot of opportunity. We believe that one is that usage of AI for the need of SMEs is yet to come in. It has started to come in, but it has not come in enough. And second thing is it has to come in at a price point which makes sense for the SMEs. So there is a lot of opportunity. I think there is a lot of opportunity in deep learning in this space. build in domain specific models which can really bring in the benefits of AI. So I don't see there is anything to be worried about. Actually, it's a huge space of optimism for the future.
Right. So moving on to the final question, what are some trends and innovations you see will become a big thing in the financial and accounting management space, and how's Tally gearing up for that transformation?
Yeah, some of these things I have mentioned earlier. I think the one most important thing that we are gearing up for is what I call democratizing technology. So what do I mean by that? So you hear of the new technology trends, you hear about cloud, you hear about data analysis, AI. The problem that we need to think of is, are they really, what the solutions that have come out in these spaces, have they really come out keeping the SMEs in mind in terms of their needs and in terms of the cost? The cost of cloud today is not really priced for a SME. Cost of solutions and data analysis, not really that way. So we are building solutions which will really bring it in for the smaller guys.
Right.
And that's what I think is democratizing technology. So that's our focus, and that I think should be the focus of the entire ecosystem. Number one. Number two is, again, this also I mentioned during our conversation today, but number two is building the connected world of the future. That you use a single software and you do everything from there. So for example, you do your banking while you are in Tally. You want to send a payment, initiate it at Tally. You want to fetch your bank statement, you want to reconcile, do it all from Tally. You want to send an e-invoice, e-way bill, file your return, send business messages, let's say WhatsApp messages. Very soon we will be releasing a feature where you can send your documents via WhatsApp from inside Tally. So do all this from Tally so that you don't need to go to 10 different portals or software, etc. to do your work. You do it all from one place, and eventually it will allow you to build that network of businesses that I was talking about, where you stay in Tally, but then you not only work with a bank, not only work with a marketplace, with the tax portal, etc., etc. You work with the 500 businesses that you are also working with. So in terms of the future, these are the two top things for the future that you are looking at. These are actually very exciting times. With artificial intelligence coming in, like we discussed in various of your questions, that we see significant opportunities to build sustainable competitive advantage for ourselves and tremendous value add for our customers. So, really looking forward to the future that we have to build in the next 2, 3, 5 years.
Right. I must say that was an insightful and interesting conversation on the latest technologies in the financial and business management industry. And I've also spoken in length about what Tally is, gearing up for, and we have spoken about AI and technologies. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vijayalakshmi.
Yeah.